you think you have seen someone with PTSD? You've seen what this looks like. Okay. And these guys and girls, they're really good at hiding it. So many of you in this community probably have, and very likely may not have realized it. What you will see, and this is a really important slide, highlight this in your handouts. These are the associated problems that you will see with PTSD. You will see reduced tolerance for stress or frustration. You will see people getting upset at what seem like little things. You will see substance abuse of all kinds, including cigarettes. We don't often think of those as being a substance to abuse, but think of the guys and girls that go on deployment smoking a pack a day and come back smoking 3. Or dipping, 3 cans a day. That's dangerous. We are getting, according to data from the VA, I'm in communication with the VA a lot, there's a lot of people, especially women, strangely enough, who are getting sicknesses, illnesses, lung cancers, from all the smoking they've been doing. Emotional instability, and that's kind of a bad word, but you see people getting teary-eyed maybe, or talking about, getting emotional at movies, macho guy comes in and says, I was watching this movie with my wife, and it was a chick flick, and I actually found myself getting teary-eyed. Doesn't make any sense, but you'll see that, if, they're comfortable enough admitting it to you. Moodiness. People kind of going back and forth between feeling good, feeling happy, and feeling just rotten, depressed, and angry. Short-term memory and concentration problems. Lots of people see this and think, oh, you must have a TBI. This can be very much a psychological problem as well. You get enough stress, you get enough psychological or stress injury, your memory suffers. Your concentration suffers. It may be part of that reaction that you just need to rest from, and it's pretty common, but it is part of this. Persisting dissociation, that's that word that means people are zoning out. People are daydreaming, not necessarily in a good way. Personality changes. A lot of parents have this experience of seeing their kids come back from deployment and thinking they're just different. Sleepwalking, sleep talking, paranoia, lots of anxiety. Sometimes people can control it, people can laugh about it, somebody taps you on the shoulder and you jump a mile high out of your shoes, and you can kind of laugh and say, oh, I do that now. But it can also cause problems, as you can expect. Irrational beliefs, they're out to get me, that's why I can't keep a job, everyone's just out to get me now. Those kinds of thoughts. Hallucinations. People see things and hear things, and this is not a mark of craziness. One of the stories I told you earlier about a convoy driver having to run down a little kid. He was a patient of mine, and he now hallucinates that kid every day of his life. He's not crazy. He had a very traumatic experience that caused him to reevaluate the way the entire world works. And so that little kid is probably a permanent memory of his. Self-destructive behaviors. People, hitting walls out of anger, hitting themselves, hurting themselves, banging their heads, things like that. People possibly going out and seeking violence. People, how many of you know someone who returned from deployment and all of a sudden started picking arguments, or maybe going to bars and picking fights? Anybody had that experience with anybody? Okay, I see a few nods, a few hands. A lot of this is not a search for aggression. A lot of this is not a search for a fight. Some of this is a search for adrenaline. How many of you have been to combat here? Somebody tell me, what was life like here in Jacksonville when you came back? Was it exciting or not? It was boring. And sometimes when you're not really thinking about it, you just know that something's missing in your life, you're really missing that combat high, that adrenaline high from being out in the thick of things, knowing that lives ride on you, that you are doing great things for your country, for your, your fellows, your buddies. There is something to say for that, as much as it sucks. So when you come back, some people go looking for that, and they drive fast, and they buy, fast cars and fast motorcycles, and they go picking fights and looking for arguments. And some of it is that, looking for that adrenaline high. And this is important to know, because sometimes when you educate people and they realize what they're doing, it gives them a whole new view about what that motorcycle is really for. A lot of people are guilty about their aggressive fantasies. Some of the search for aggression or search for an adrenaline rush, they may not actually act on it, but they may think about it. What would happen if I did this? And then they feel horribly guilty, because for the most part, these are good people we're talking about. So that guilt may be coming out, they may come out in irritability, in defensiveness, in paranoia. Some of it may come down to, I don't like what's going on in my head. And most people won't admit to sexual problems, but they're there too. Anxiety can get in the way of a good sexual experience. Anger can get in the way, especially for women. Fear, paranoia. All of those things can get in the way of having a positive sexual experience. So people don't mention it, but it's there.